Good morning friends. Once again I'm here today. Now today's video is about the lubrication management. This lubrication management I mean to say related to the rotating machinery. Most of the machinery run on they need lubrication oil for the bearings, for the hydraulic purpose, for the seal oil. Many things are there by which we can say lubrication is needed. And lubrication starts from purchasing the right lubricant from the good companies, and then arranging to how to distribute each and every equipment the proper, the identified, the needed lubricant, and again the handling of the lubricant. And in this lubrication oil and grease both are coming. So the grease, very well, the grease is used, uh, the grease is used, and the lubrication oil is used. So the management of this purchasing, procurement, and storage, and then disposal also, because after using the lubrication you are going to dispose it in a proper way, so that you have to comply all the environmental rules and regulation statutory requirements, because it is not proper that you can simply dispose the lubricant wherever you want, because it contains chemical additives and different type of hazards could be there for the environment. So you have to comply the environment. Now the question is that in process industry how you manage. Generally it is a job of, you can say, purchasing the lubricants for the purpose of the maintenance is related to the maintenance people. They are purchasing in the form of, you can say, drums of 165 kilometer approximately, or they might be having the packets from the grease, containers, cans. Some special type grease are also recommended by the bearing manufacturer as well the OEMs, original equipment manufacturers. But how you are going to manage it? Generally it is seen that when the project is started, the machinery are given the pre-filled lubrications with the information ki what type of lubricants are recommended for a particular equipment. Take the example, simple example of the motor. In the motor, it is a driving some equipment, so you have a equipment tag. Now most of the equipments, whether pumps or compressor, they are also supplying motors, or they are the, you can say, single point responsibility for supplying the driver of that particular equipment. Now I am taking very simple example of the overhang pump, and which is driven by the motor. This motor, generally electrical motors are having the grease lubrication bearings. So the amount of the grease, how you have to lubricate, and what is the quantity of the lubrications, and how you are knowing that whether this period of lubrication, whether it is a proper or not. How would you know that whether the grease quantity is proper or not? So all these things are related to the supplier of the motor, and the supplier of motor means the OEM. OEM will tell you what are the recommendations. Now what is you have to do? You have to have all the list of the motors. You have to specify the type of the greasings you are going to have, and storage and quantity. That should be very much written in a register, or you can say whatever management you are having, lubrication management, you should have all the information. These grease or oils have some specifications. For example, lubrication oil bearings are there, then you have to have the specification related to the viscosity and other properties. In a similar way, if you have the grease, you have some specification, you have to maintain the quantities, proper quantities. It has been seen that most of the bearings failures are caused by the mishandling, you can say contaminated lubrication. Why contamination happens? Contamination happens how you are handling and managing the lubrications. So from the storage to how to take it out. For example, the lubrication oil is in the drum, but how you are pumping it out, and distributing in the small containers, then you are pouring in the bearing housing. All these small things are should be taken care of. The people should be having the very clean handling of the lubrication from the storage up to the equipment. Another thing is that sometimes what happens, that people are pouring wrong lubrication in equipments. Why it is happening because they are not knowing that the lubrication have a different viscosity, different properties. So it must be noted that whenever you are having the equipment, you should paint at least base with that particular lubrication oil viscosity or lubrication. Lubrication generally have a ISO names. For example, they will say it is a ISO 46 42 turbo oil, or you can say some indication is there, some number is there. That number is actually the viscosity of the lubrication oil. So you should specify, you should write ISO BG 32, ISO BG 40, ISO BG something, you can say 160. So the viscosity, as less viscosity is means the less it is a slightly not thick, and the viscosity is higher side, it is a thick. So generally what happens that in the turbines and the gas turbines, or you can say high speed machines, we are using the turbo 32, turbo 46, and for as you move on, you are using mostly lubrication oil having the ISO viscosity at the higher grades. Particularly in gearbox, we are using the higher viscosity oil. So why I'm saying that the pouring of the oil to the right equipment is very, very important. So now different type equipments are there. For example, screw compressor is there, or you can say centrifugal compressor is there. Then the lubrication system, the gear pump, or how you, sometimes what happens in the screw compressor, you have to take out the separation of the oil from the gas. So there may be oil separator also. So there is a lubrication system depending upon the type of equipment, and you might be having the filters, oil cooler. For example, in the reciprocating compressor, at the end of the shaft, you are having the MOP in the crankcase, and the crankcase is a reservoir, you can. So from that you are taking the oil through the pump and sending it to the filters and the, you can say, coolers, and then it is going to the again circulated to the compressor. So this is the way. In a similar way, in the centrifugal compressor, you are taking the oil from the reservoir, then sending to the MOP, and then filters, and then coolers, and then it is again going to the equipment. So this way you are having the lubrication oil systems. This lubrication oil systems, it is also governed by, particularly in the hydrocarbon industry, API. API is, maybe I think I don't remember, it is API 670 something like that, where the lubrication systems are handled. So there is a, you can say, prototype, there is a standard for all the lubrication systems for all the rotating machinery in hydrocarbon industry, process industry. For example, refinery, or upstream, or midstream, or you can say petrochemical areas. So in case if you have lubrication systems, you might be having the components are the coolers, oil cooler are there, and the pump is there, and the filters are there. Generally it has been seen, particularly in the centrifugal system, or you can say screw compressor systems, or lubrication systems, it has been seen that there are a lot of leakages are there. Leakages, creating a lot of problems. It gets contaminated. So there should not be any leakage. Leakage may come from the cooler, may come from the filters, may come any joints from the MOP, or so it is very, very important that you should maintain the cleanliness as well as the without leakage lubrication oil, because when you have a lot of lubrication leakage, the surroundings, you can say machine, it gets dirty look by this oil get mixed with the dust and all that. So this cleanliness is very, very necessary, and this could be assured only when you have a good you can say sealing system. Sealing system means that even if small, you can say oil seals, gaskets, and all these should be in a properly maintained and properly fitted, properly, you can say, practiced. So most of the times what problems you will have in the lubrication systems, that suppose if you have a oil cup, the oil leakage is there and you don't have the oil, so there are chances that bearing will get damaged soon. So it is very very important that you should be aware of all the components of the lubrication systems. There may be different type of lubrication system, there may be different type of lubricant. For example, in the motors, most of the time greasing is done, but sometimes you have a system of the lubrication oil in a similar way, that you are directly giving the forced pressurized oil in some motors, particularly in big motors. So there is a standard for quantity, or you can say recommendation from the OEM for the quantity when you should replace, and when you know that the oil is now okay, or oil is not working properly, or oil is contaminated. That has been seen generally in the case of the steam turbine. Wherever the steam leakage is there, it gets mixed with the lubricant, and this gets moisture contents are very high. So moisture content can come through the, you can say, handling of the drum also. So it is just open and all the moisture is going into it. So it is very necessary that you should have a test of the oil. Test of oil, whatever new oil you are pouring in, you first time you get it tested whether it is a proper or not. And for the testing you should have some properties tested. For example, viscosity, moisture, they can acid numbers, total acid number 10, and another I don't remember now, just now. So there are 4 or 5 parameters where you would know what is the quality of the oil which is totally new. So whatever oil is recommended, whatever the properties is there, you should ensure that there is no much moisture beyond permitted limit. Generally it has been seen that you should not have a ppm 200 300 ppm more than that in lubrication oil where it is going to the steam turbine. In a similar way, in the gearbox the ppm may be less. This contamination by the moisture, by the content of the water, it is very very dangerous for the lubrication system, and it is very dangerous for the rotating machinery, and it is generally damaging the bearings, or it is generally damaging the systems. Now what precaution you should have about the lubrication systems when you are, you can say, operating? It has been seen that sometimes you need to have a cooler, because generally it is coming as a pair, so one cooler is in line, another cooler is not in line. So changeover of the filters as well as the oil cooler should be very very proper. Either you should be in condition, stopped condition, or the operator should be trained in such a way that there should not be any problem when changing over. So there should be procedure for the changeover of the filters as well as the oil cooler. I have seen many times, not a few times, many times, that there was damage because of only misoperation done for the changeover of the oil cooler and filter. So it should be looked into in that manner, that whenever you are going to have a changeover of the filters or oil cooler, it should be as per your procedures. Another warning system is that how you are disposing the lubrication oil, lubrication grease. It has been seen that some people just pouring, and whatever the oil is there, they are just flushing it out in the nearby, you can say, trench, near the white trench, which is maybe of the water trench, or that should not be there. Either you should have a separate line or separate arrangement for all the hydrocarbon to be collected and should be sent to the pit, which is only meant for the hydrocarbon and the lubrication oil. Or you should have a contract for the lubrication management to such parties that they are collecting all the used lubrication or replaced oil lubrication. In the case of the centrifugal compressor, in the case of the huge pump systems, you have a lot of oil. So you have to replace the oil because of after some years, or after shutdown, or you can say because the oil is not proper or it is contaminated, then you have replaced the oil, or it may be coming in the preventive one of the preventive tasks to replace the oil. Generally in the small pumps it is done, but in the big machines also, reciprocating compressor, centrifugal compressor, and big pump like injection water pump or export oil pump, you have to replace the oil. So replacing the oil, it is a huge quantity, so you have to dispose it all. So in a proper way, as per the rules and regulation, as per the environmental compliance, you have to dispose. So what I wanted to say, that lubrication management is also a science and engineering and technology that is to be given responsibility a particular unique group, the group who is handling only lubrications. Or sometimes it has been seen that nowadays we people have a certified people who are doing the lubrication management, and under their supervisions, all the activities of the lubrication related, from the preservation, from the storage, from the you can say distribution up to the disposal, everything is seen. So that's all I want to tell you, that why the lubrication system is very very important. It is a, you can say, simply blood. Now you can also identify some problems related to the machine, whether it may be the potential failure, whether developing some problems because of the oil condition is tested, quality of the oil, and then also tested for the contaminations. By knowing the contaminations in the oil analysis, you can know from where the this particles are coming, so you can identify that component. Maybe it is coming from the bearings, general bearings, or maybe coming from the other part. So by knowing the constitutes of the particles, deteriorated particles, contaminated particles, you can know very well from machinery which component is getting deteriorated, and from this is from this why the contamination is coming. I mean, related to the particles, whatever you can say rubbed off, you can know, and precipitated in the oil, you can know the region of the machinery deterioration. And another technology is also there, which they call knowing the ferrography, what you call, generally it is called ferrography. Ferrography is not very popular terms, but I will tell you that ferrography means simply that they are knowing the by the oil analysis, what contaminations are there, what type of particles are there, how much their size is there, how much concentration is there. So by analyzing all those things, they can tell the machinery condition deterioration, particularly big machines. Suppose centrifugal compressors are there and steam turbine driven this compressor is there. So by knowing the characteristics of the oil with the viewpoint of the rubbed off the particles, or you can say particles coming from the machines, and when they are analyzed through the method of the ferrography. Ferrography is still another technology and science by which we can now know where from the contamination is coming. Another important thing is the grease lubrication. You might be using the gun for the lubrication. Sometimes it has been seen that people are using the ultrasound technology when they are greasing. That same time they are listening the sound, so they can know that they have done the proper quantity of the greasing. They have done, particularly in the case of the motors, where the grease lubrication is used. So knowing your all the equipments, what type of lubrications they are using, from where it is being purchased, what is the specifications, and how you are maintaining the sampling. Oil sampling is also done for the purpose of the oil analysis and for the ferrography. It may be done every month for the critical machines, or sometimes for the gearboxes it could be done every month or 2 months. Gearboxes of the agitators mainly, or gearbox of the extruders, or big machines, or compressors. There are different type of machines we are using gearbox. I'll tell you that you can maintain the gearbox in very proper way if you have a good lubrication management for the gearbox. What I want to say in other words, that if you don't do anything for the gearbox and if you are maintaining proper lubrication of the gearbox, you will not have the failure, particularly any failure, premature failure I would like to say, in the gearbox. And only you will need to, you can say, do the overhauling maybe in a gap of 4 or 5 6 years. I mean, meantime between failure you can have a 6 7 8 years for all the gearboxes. That is my, I'm telling by my experience, that if you have a proper lubrication. So that's all from today from my side. If you have any questions, suggestions or anything how to improve this video presentations, I would be glad to, you can say, consider, and I will try to improve. And also tell me whether you have any substance, whether you any something like that to know about contents about this thing, whatever I am doing. So your feedback, your criticism, or you can say your views are very very necessary for me to get encouraged to give you more and more videos about any topics. Friends, I will tell you, initially I am giving the only the importance of different systems. I am not going technically, very high technically or analytical point of view about the that particular system or that particular topic or that particular, you can say, technology. This is just make you to understand that these systems are very important. When the stage comes that you are very much interested on a particular topic and want to go into detailing it, or you have a lot of questions we would like to discuss among you. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot for watching this video. Okay, thanks.